Hey, it's Aaron. If you haven't seen the news, sometime just before Christmas, there was a big announcement that Nissan and Honda are looking to merge. The actual announcement itself was pretty slim on details and didn't have a whole lot of real information in it. There was a lot of talk about collaboration and synergies and all the other usual stuff, but there weren't any real hard details. But since this came out, I've had a lot of questions from different people about what this would mean for the industry. And what it would mean is a fair amount of shakeup. Not huge amounts, not like tsunami level, just small changes that would be evident all over the place. So the real question first is this merger going to happen? And if it does, what all will be involved? So the proposed merger, at the very least, if it doesn't turn into a merger, it will turn into a lot of collaboration between the companies. Honda doesn't have anything for electrification. Honda's done some hybrids, they're pretty good at that, but they have done no electric vehicles. The only electric vehicles they have are somebody else's that are just rebadged. So Honda needs that. Nissan has tons of experience with that. So Honda looks to gain right there. Mitsubishi, if it's included in this, would also have a lot to bring to the table in that regard, especially with plug-in hybrids and other more advanced electrification setups. So Honda gains right there. They're looking for that IP. They want that technology and background. Nissan, for its part, would gain in money because Nissan is struggling hard. They would also look to maybe gain some market share, especially if the two companies really merge and make one company under them that uses all of these brands. So you could potentially see, if this were a merger, you would still see Honda as a brand, you would still see Nissan as a brand, but they would be able to share manufacturing a lot of other things, and they would be more like sub-companies under an overall, sort of like Stellantis is Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram truck, Fiat, and so on, right? So it would be the same idea. Part of the agreement here is that Mitsubishi, which is about 20% owned by Nissan, has until the end of January to decide if they want to be part of this merger. Mitsubishi loses more than it gains if it refuses. So it's very likely that Mitsubishi would include itself as part of this. The three Japanese companies would therefore be working very closely together. Mitsubishi is losing market share almost everywhere in the world, and the bulk of its sales in cars is in emerging markets where the profits are pretty low. There's not a whole lot of profit there. So Mitsubishi really needs to find its way back on track. In the U.S. here, it's basically gone. There's very little in terms of sales. Its market share is barely toehold in size, so it really needs some help there. It's struggling in other markets, so Mitsubishi would gain by joining this. The question would be the value. So would Mitsubishi itself as a company see this as a value step? And I think they would. So I'm predicting that Mitsubishi will include itself as part of this. Now, what will happen to the alliance? So Renault has alliance with Nissan and Mitsubishi, and so would that continue or would that be dropped? My prediction is that it would be dropped. I think that I think that they would back out as part of this, and it would probably be required on Honda's part. Honda would probably require that. Now, I could be wrong there, and Honda could become part of that alliance, in which case, or the new company that's formed. So the way that this merger would happen, if it does happen, would be Nissan and Honda would remain as brands, and so we would assume that their other respective brands would also remain, but what would happen is it would be an overall company like Stellantis. So like I said before. So what we're going to see maybe with Renault is they would join, redo their alliance with the larger corporation. So the agreement that was announced so far is that Mitsubishi has by the end of January, like I said, to say if they're going to join, and then the actual merger talks would start in February, and they would be negotiated through somewhere around maybe June or so. So somewhere around mid-year next 2025, and then and then the actual merger itself would work out and happen sometime in 2026, probably mid or late year, because there are a lot of government oversight entities, I guess, that would be involved in this. You have Japanese, American, and European, and so on. So there would be a lot of legal requirement, and that would explain the delay. And then there's going to involve some sort of money transactions. So there's going to be some sort of transaction where somebody sells X amount of themselves to the other one or whatever, or they put, all of that. So it's not an easy process, but we would be looking at somewhere in 2026, and so this would probably affect 2027 model year vehicles in terms of whether or not there's any shared platforms or branding. Most likely we won't really see any of that until 2028. So your Honda Civic is going to be a Honda Civic up until at least 2027. And then whether or not there's any trading around, that's totally up in the air. It's really difficult to predict whether or not these companies would then start sharing platforms immediately, or whether that would take a while. My guess is that most of their current vehicles will remain as they are, other than expected generational updates or something between now and the merger. I think it's going to mostly be in advanced powertrains. So in vehicles that are some sort of electrified, especially plug-in hybrids and electrics, I think we'll see a lot more sharing there from the get-go of this merger. So if this merger happens really close after that finishes, we'll start to see those. And we may see them before, just because they're going to be collaborating. And they already have been, so we expect that they will continue to do that, and maybe even do more. There's nothing that stops them during this merger process from making other agreements to collaborate more with one another. And I think that this is a good step forward for them towards that kind of goal, if nothing else. So that's it. There really isn't a whole ton of details or specific information, and I don't think we'll have that until the merger talks are done and it looks like they're going to actually merge. Up to that point, I don't expect to see a whole lot of information about this particular thing happening, other than there will be an announcement at some point next month as to whether or not Mitsubishi plans on being a part of this, and then there will probably be some sort of announcement from the Renault Alliance as to whether or not they will be participating. I expect to see that sometime next year. Otherwise, really don't expect a lot of information here. As far as the industry overall, this will make small changes. We'll see some changes in dealerships and other things should this merger happen. But as far as the overall automotive market, the only big changes that I see would not be in the US. They would mostly be overseas. We would see more attempts at gain in market share in markets like China, Asia in general, and probably in Europe, especially as the electrification grows. Here in the US, I don't think we would see a whole ton of change in terms of the what's already established, but I do think we will see a few more of some vehicles and maybe less of others, and we may see some, if there's the new overall company may start trimming the herd in order to have less inner competition, which is something that, say, Stellantis has done a little bit of. I think that's pretty much all I can tell you. Most of this is speculation. There isn't a whole lot of information to go from, but these are my best guesses. So hopefully that helps. This has been Aaron. Talk to you again soon.